Welcome back to USA News Street, your place for clear and simple updates about U.S. immigration news and government policy. Today we're talking about a topic that could affect thousands of immigrants currently waiting inside the U.S. immigration system. There is now growing discussion in Washington about changing the waiting period for asylum work permits, and many immigration experts say this debate could become one of the most important immigration policy conversations in the coming months. If you are following U.S. immigration news, this is something you should definitely understand. So let's break it down in simple terms. Right now, when someone applies for asylum in the United States, they cannot immediately apply for a work permit. Under the current system, asylum applicants must wait 150 days after filing their asylum application before they can apply for work authorization. After that, the government can begin reviewing the work permit request. This waiting period was originally designed to prevent abuse of the asylum system, while still allowing legitimate applicants to eventually work legally while their case is being reviewed. But here's where things become complicated. The U.S. immigration system is currently facing one of the largest backlogs in history. Millions of immigration cases are still waiting for court hearings or final decisions. Because of this backlog, many asylum applicants remain stuck in the system for years before their case is decided. And during that waiting time, the work permit becomes extremely important. Without legal work authorization, it becomes very difficult for people to support themselves while waiting for a decision. Now, immigration policymakers are discussing whether the current rules should change. Some policy proposals suggest increasing the waiting period for asylum work permits, potentially making applicants wait longer before they can apply. Supporters of this idea argue that it could help reduce misuse of the asylum system and discourage people from filing weak claims simply to gain work authorization. However, many immigration lawyers and advocacy groups strongly disagree. They argue that increasing the waiting period could create serious financial hardship for people who are already waiting inside the legal immigration process. So right now, this topic has become a major debate in U.S. immigration policy circles. And depending on how this discussion develops, it could eventually lead to new rules or policy adjustments in the future. But here is something very important to understand. At this moment, no final nationwide rule has been officially implemented yet. What we are seeing right now is policy discussion and proposals, not a finalized law. Still, whenever immigration policy debates start gaining attention in Washington, experts begin watching very closely. Because many major immigration changes in the past started exactly the same way, with early discussions like the ones happening right now. And that's why this topic is now being talked about across immigration news platforms, legal experts, and policy analysts. In the next part of this video, we're going to explain why the asylum backlog in the United States has become so large, and how that backlog is directly connected to the work permit debate. So keep watching, because the next section will help you clearly understand why millions of cases are still waiting inside the immigration system. Now let's continue from where we left off. In the previous section, we talked about the growing debate around asylum work permits in the United States. But to really understand why this issue has become so important, we need to look at something bigger: the immigration backlog. Right now, the U.S. immigration system is facing a historic backlog of cases. Millions of immigration applications are still waiting to be processed. This includes asylum cases, family petitions, and many other types of immigration filings. For asylum seekers in particular, the waiting period has become extremely long. In many cases, it can take 2 to 4 years before someone even receives their immigration court hearing. And during this time, applicants are often living in the United States while their case moves slowly through the system. This is where the work permit becomes a critical part of the process. Without work authorization, asylum applicants cannot legally work in the United States. That means they may struggle to support themselves while waiting for a legal decision. That is why the work permit system was originally created, to give applicants a way to legally work while their case is still pending. However, some policymakers believe that the current system may encourage people to file asylum claims mainly to gain access to work authorization. Supporters of stricter rules argue that if the waiting period for work permits becomes longer, fewer people might try to misuse the asylum process. But critics of the proposal say the situation is much more complicated. Immigration attorneys point out that many asylum seekers are fleeing serious danger in their home countries, and they rely on legal work permits to survive while waiting for their case to be heard. Another important factor is the immigration court system itself. Many courts are simply overwhelmed with cases. Some immigration courts schedule hearings years into the future because there are not enough judges to handle the number of applications. So even if someone has a legitimate asylum claim, the process can still take a very long time. Because of this, experts say the real solution may not just be changing work permit rules. Instead, they believe the immigration system needs faster processing, more judges, and improved case management. That way, asylum decisions could happen much sooner. If cases were resolved faster, the need for long work permit waiting periods might become much less important. So you can see why this issue is creating such a strong debate in Washington. On one side, policymakers want to protect the immigration system from abuse. On the other side, advocates want to make sure that legitimate asylum seekers are not placed in an impossible financial situation. Right now, this discussion is still developing. But immigration lawyers across the country are watching carefully because any change in this area could affect thousands of applicants already waiting in the system. In the final part of this video, we're going to talk about what immigration experts believe could happen next, and what possible changes might appear in future U.S. immigration policy. So stay with us as we move into the final section. Now let's move into the final part of this discussion. So far in this video, we've talked about two major issues: the growing immigration backlog and the debate around asylum work permits. Now the big question many people are asking is simple: what could actually happen next? Immigration experts say there are several possible directions the U.S. government could take in the future. One possibility is that policymakers may decide to adjust the waiting period for work permits. This could mean increasing the waiting time before asylum applicants are allowed to apply for work authorization. Supporters of this idea believe that longer waiting periods might reduce the number of people trying to use the asylum system only for employment opportunities. However, other experts say the focus should not only be on work permits. Instead, they argue that the real issue is the immigration system itself. The backlog of cases has become so large that many applicants remain in the system for years before receiving a final decision. If the government invests in more immigration judges, faster case processing, and improved court management, the entire system could move more efficiently. And if asylum decisions happen faster, the need for long waiting periods would become much less important. Some immigration analysts also believe the United States could eventually introduce broader immigration reforms in the coming years. These reforms could include improvements to asylum processing, border procedures, and immigration court operations. But it is important to remember something very important. Right now, these discussions are still part of an ongoing policy conversation. No final nationwide rule has officially been implemented yet regarding major changes to asylum work permits. Whenever immigration policy changes in the United States, it usually happens after long debates, legal reviews, and public discussions. That process can take time, but staying informed about these discussions is extremely important, especially for people who follow U.S. immigration developments closely. And that's exactly why we bring these updates to you here on USA News Street. Our goal is to explain complex immigration news in a simple and clear way so viewers can understand what is happening and what it could mean for the future. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to USA News Street, because we regularly cover important updates about U.S. immigration, government policy changes, and breaking news stories that could affect people across the country. And if you want to stay updated on the latest immigration discussions happening right now in the United States, keep watching our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next update.